So open source is not a checkbox to being a real dev, which is a statement I got from this tweet from Theo on Twitter. So Theo's actually responding to a Redditor asking for a TypeScript project in React to make a contribution to. So my first inclination was actually go into Reddit and read this post and look at the replies. Because I want to respond to this, but I want to really understand the situation. Now, normally Reddit goes off the rails, and this one kind of does a little bit. So this Redditor is looking to find a project without TypeScript to contribute to, specifically to make an open source contribution. And first question, which I love the fact that this is the most upvoted question on Reddit, which is why? Why are you trying to make an open source contribution to a React project? I guess this really has me thinking, should you make contributions to open source to get a job? Now, the answer to that, it varies. And I think that for the sake of just getting stuff on your resume and making contributions, I think there is space for that. But for the sake of this question, looking for a React project to make an open source contribution to then show on your resume that you know React, it's actually not that ideal. So I've been writing code for almost 10 years, and I've been involved in open source either directly or adjacent for almost that entire time. I even kicked off some open source curriculum at a boot camp where I specifically mentored students in making their first meaningful contribution to projects. And these were all notable projects, and some folks got to cite that specifically on their resume of those contributions to things like Go GitHub and a few other small JavaScript projects in the React ecosystem. If you don't know Kelsey Hightower, you should definitely go look him up and find out some of his work on YouTube and in open source, specifically the Kubernetes space. But Kelsey's been hosting these Twitter spaces on a weekly basis, and he had one recently, which was, why do I contribute to open source?
So at that point, I wasn't really doing open source so I can put it on LinkedIn or put it on my resume. It was more of like a natural progression from being a consumer of open source to someone that can literally say, man, I can actually change these tools to work the way I want. I don't have to accept them as they are.
So in that conversation, Kelsey's talking about why he contributes to open source, which is not just for adding to your resume, but it was actually benefiting and contributing back to the ecosystem. The value of open source is actually making contributions that are meaningful upstream. My recommendation is actually don't look for open source projects in particular that fit the bill of what you learned at the boot camp or what you learned to get the job because you feel like you're going to do some feature work or component work at a job, so maybe beef up that. What most people are interviewing for is actually your understanding of the framework, of the library, of the ecosystem. So instead of making contributions to non-TypeScript projects, make contributions to TypeScript projects, learn TypeScript, and then help build the ecosystem in the world of React components or within APIs or within all the pieces that help build products. Because if you want to be a product engineer, if you want to get a full-time job, whether you're looking for your first or your next, make a meaningful contribution to the ecosystem. And I'll be honest, like when I was going through the replies, I think not too much of it's unhinged. I think there were some replies where folks were just like, this is coming out of left field. Why are we encouraging more beginners to make contributions? And I think we'd have enough of that in the ecosystem where we have Hacktoberfest, we've got good first issues. There's tons of projects, like if you're familiar with the Eddie Zhao community, to make your first contribution and build your bio drop. That exists, and there's a pathway there. But if you're looking to level up, don't shy away from things like TypeScript or shy away from digging into the code base and understanding or even asking questions. I played high school football, and in high school football, I was actually tall and skinny. We had a bunch of wide receivers, not too unlike of all the JavaScript developers that are currently in the ecosystem right now. The best way back when I was in high school for me to get plays and to play in the actual game was to stand next to the coach. And the thing about this is, like, when you stand next to the coach, you can see exactly what's happening on the field. So if the coach is making changes or shifting offense based on whatever he's seeing out there, like, you'll hear that and you'll have a good understanding of like when the defensive back is not playing as hard as possible. So when it comes down to making contributions in open source, it's not too unlike trying to get in the game. If you stand next to the coach or the open source maintainer and you watch enough until there's an opportunity for you to make a contribution, like, that's the best way to make your first contribution open source, is don't do anything. Just hang out, join the Discord, read issues, read PRs, and learn TypeScript. I'd say like Big Box SWE, which I don't know if we still trust people with frog faces on the internet, but here we are. They put it exactly how Kelsey put it, which is, I think the best way to contribute to open source is actually use open source products. Become a power user, find bugs, open pull requests. This reply comes in clutch, is the fact that this person became a power user of a product that they could read the code of, and then they learn the next thing and the next thing. So be a power user, dig in, ask questions. Because the one thing that I do want to leave you with as well is like most of these maintainers would love your contribution. But when you're met with, I'm looking for the easiest way to make my contribution and then disappear, if you're specifically looking for a job and you're looking to beef up your resume, you're missing a huge opportunity, which is a mentor or a maintainer to help show you the way. It's also worth saying that I run a company called Open Sauce. In Open Sauce specifically, we help folks find places to contribute, but we don't specifically give you issues and good first issues and PRs to go jump into. Instead, we give you up and coming repos so that you can join those communities. So like that entire experience is still a work in progress. We're shipping some really cool stuff in the next few weeks. I do encourage you to try it out. And comment below if you got a project that you've been contributing to recently that could use more people hanging out in their communities. So with that, stay saucy.